Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Good evening.
Hello.
Mr. Mayor, we are live and ready to go when you are.
Mr. Mayor, you're on mute.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. I was saying welcome everyone. It is September 29th, 2020. And if you will, help me get started as we usually do with the Pledge of Allegiance to the Republic. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the Republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Yeah, please. All right, so I think the first thing we need to do is we need to do a roll call of our council members to make sure we have quorum to actually do this tonight. So Mr. Lanzer, would you call roll for us?
Mr. Betcher.
Present.
Ms. Cheney.
Here.
Mr. Knipp. Mr. Pridnoff.
Yes.
Ms. Snyder.
Here.
And Mr. Van Harn.
Present.
All members present except for Mr. Knipp.
Do we have a motion to excuse Mr. Knipp?
Motion to excuse.
I'll second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
All right. Has everyone had an opportunity to look at the agenda? And if so, in agreement, do we have a motion to accept it?
Motion to accept. Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, without objection, I'll take that as unanimous. Just a reminder to folks that during COVID, we're holding firm to the principle that you need to be registered to speak ahead of time, to be granted some time to speak at the council meeting. We'll make exceptions as are available. I am unaware of anyone that's registered to speak at this time. If you would like to speak, our assistant village administrator keeps track of what's going on in the chat section. So please just enter your name there and a description of what you'd like to talk about, and we'll see if we can fit you in. Next item that I have here is approval of the previous minutes. And the way we're doing this is we'll be approving our previous council meetings minutes, and then I believe the 4th through 6th meetings minutes that we had in our bulk minutes of how we got behind during COVID here. Does anyone have any comments on the minutes, any changes that need to be made, or are we ready to vote for approval?
So, Mr. Mayor, can I read the dates into the record?
Yes, please.
So it would be from May 11, 2020, May 26, 2020, June 8th, 2020, June 22nd, 2020. Those were all special council meetings by Zoom. And then the last council meeting would be September 14th, 2020, also a special council meeting.
Do I have a motion to accept the minutes?
I'll make a motion to accept all the minutes.
Second.
And all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Without objection, I take that as unanimous. Thank you. And I typically, we would go into my mayor's report at this time. I'm aware that we have, we have 2 guests with us. One is live, and I'm going to keep him hostage here for a while, so I'm not going to let him go first. But we have another one that's joined us by Zoom, and we would like to allow him to go as this is completed. So I'm going to turn it over to Administrator Mr. Hirth to take his business.
And I believe Sergeant Reed is in the room.
Yes, sir, I'm here.
And there he is. Very good. Thank you for being here. I appreciate that. I knew this is off your schedule, and I just had something important I wanted to do this evening. So from time to time, I see special things happen here by the employees of the village. And I want to have the ability to be able to recognize efforts above and beyond the call of duty and responsibility. I have created what I'm calling the Certificate of Excellence Award that I would like to present on occasion to employees who have gone above and beyond. And in the minutes for this evening, I'll read what I have stated. I'm awarding the Certificate of Excellence Award to Sergeant Ryland Reed in appreciation for the manner in which he conducts his daily duties and the regard he demonstrates toward his fellow employees and the residents of the village. Sergeant Reed has demonstrated extra effort, particularly during the COVID pandemic. And I'm sorry, I have to make this bigger because you can't read it. Sorry about that. He has something that I was unaware of what was happening until last week is he has been spending his own time when he comes in to sanitize the public areas of the administration building, and in his awareness of how PD operations affect the rest of our operations here. He has saved the village vehicle expense through managing vehicle maintenance and sourcing our procurement of those vehicles. And he's been a great help to the administration in a number of situations and embodies what I would like to see and what I hope we're fostering here is the spirit of willingly cooperating and having a positive spirit towards what we need to be accomplishing. For this reason, I'm awarding him with the Certificate of Excellence Award. Everybody can see there. And I would like to ask you to join me and the mayor in thanking Sergeant Reed and appreciation for what he does for the village of Gulf Manor. And I appreciate everything. Thank you.
I appreciate it very much.
Well deserved. It's well deserved, Sergeant.
So I only wish we could have done this in person, but we are having a barbecue on October 9th. So
Yeah, I'll be there for that.
we get to do it again, maybe. Thank you very much. I really appreciate what you do.
No problem. Thank you very much for the recognition. I appreciate it.
Yes, thank you, Sergeant Reed.
So you are welcome to stay if you'd like and have a merry time or be on your way.
Okay. I got to head up to Cleveland here, so I'm going to jump off. But thank you again.
Thank you, Sergeant.
All right. Take care.
Chief,
All
I
right,
just
thank you.
asked you before he left, did you have anything to add?
I'm sorry, I had my volume turned down. What did you say?
No, I asked Chief Campbell. I should have asked this before Ryland left, but Chief, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, it's just well deserved. He's an excellent member of our team. He embodies the spirit of our police department in cooperating internally with the village as well as with surrounding agencies. Luckily, I think we have a team full of people that could receive that award in the future as well. And I'm very proud that he received that. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Hirth. Thank you again, Sergeant Reed. So for my report, a couple updates on COVID that I've received, and there's also a pipeline update and a couple more items. Governor DeWine reached out about our mask enforcement policy and thanking us for the support. Back in July, I ordered an enforcement policy focusing on places like our bus stops to ensure that residents can safely use them. I have a link to it in my report here, which I'll submit to be included along with the minutes here and online. The enforcement policy allowed for a $25 fine if a warning doesn't work in situations such as folks congregating at bus stops without masks on. The policy intended to provide protection for immune compromised or elderly individuals having to use our bus stops. Masks are required at all the metro buses in the county, but enforcement at bus stops is outside the capabilities of the health department. I had hoped that our policy would serve as an additional model other than the non-enforcement model available to local leadership, and appreciate the governor's acknowledgement. Our COVID update page on the website is being updated with 3 links. There's one that has a map of COVID-19 testing sites, one that has how to file a COVID-19 public health complaint, and one that has the most recent COVID-19 statistics for Hamilton County and by zip code. The closest testing sites for our residents, I think I've mentioned this before, but going to continue to include it in my report, is at 1740 Langdon Farm, and there's another one close by that's at 7005 Reading Road. I have the phone numbers where you can call those places in my report as well. As I said, that will be on the website. Governor DeWine continues to offer the opportunity to have free testing here in Gulf Manor. There are some who have expressed opposition to doing this, but I believe we can address all the challenges involved, but I don't want to do it without having the council's support. So if you're interested in bringing testing to Gulf Manor, let your council members know. Concerns about an eviction crisis given the state of COVID-19 related unemployment and the expiration of the moratorium on evictions has been raised by several local officials, prompting a focus on resources available to renters. The Legal Aid Society of Greater Cincinnati has a tenant's guide to eviction court, which serves as an educational tool to help renters better navigate the system and best exercise their rights. There's a link to that in my report. In addition to this, President Trump ordered an extension on the moratorium of evictions through the end of the year. And there's a webpage devoted to helping renters navigate the special COVID-19 renter protections that follow from this executive order. To that is in my report. COVID-19 Halloween recommendations from the county health department have been provided. Briefly, this includes social distance between family groups that are out and about, wearing a mask under your costume masks, respecting homes that aren't participating, not knocking on doors that have their lights out. They also interestingly say parents should sanitize the wrappers of candy received using Clorox type wipes for at least the first 72 hours after Halloween. Updates from the most recent health department update to elected officials, which was earlier today, include the following. They say the age of 18 to 24 appears to have normalized after an initial back to school spike in COVID-19 cases. Hamilton County is still level 2 orange, and our statistics appear stable there. So there's no indication that state would increase our level 2 red later this week. They made a determination on Thursdays. This past week, 10 students and 6 staff were diagnosed with COVID-19 in Hamilton County schools. Over the past month, the total numbers have been 31 students and 7 staff. So it's a significant increase in cases of school staff in the past week. Hamilton County Emergency Management Homeland Security continues to offer free PPE to community-based organizations and nonprofits, including disinfectant wipes, spray, hand sanitizers, thermometers, gloves, etc. Just need to ask them, if you know of a community-based organization that could use PPE, contact 513-263-8200. They anticipate continued PPE distribution into next year. The county is finalizing the terms of community agreements for additional aid, having received guidance from the Ohio Auditor's Office. The terms allow for broader use of funding for first responders, including payroll. HEROES Act negotiations between the parties have started in Congress concerning additional financial assistance for individuals and municipalities, which could mean additional relief down the road here. Pipeline update. I met with the government affairs specialist and vice president of gas operations at Duke Energy. I had previously asked them for a list of the 5 most recent accidents involving pipeline explosions and fatalities, the causes of these explosions and fatalities, and the follow-up safety measures that have been put in place. We finally met last week where they presented their findings, and I had the opportunity to ask the many questions I have about the Central Corridor gas pipeline project. I had a lot of questions because of my concerns over the proximity of the pipeline and the potential blast radius of the pipeline this size. One concern was the protection of what I'm told is Ohio's oldest synagogue, which falls within that blast zone during a period of time that nationally has recorded the highest number of anti-Semitic based attacks. Another concern was for the safety of our police and fire station, which falls within the blast zone. I was worried about a situation in which our first responders can't respond to an attack because they themselves are a casualty of it. The Vice President of Gas Operations at Duke Energy, Gary Hebler, patiently heard and responded to each of my questions over the course of about 2 hours. Yeah. And I can say I'm much more confident in the safety of our residents and the first responders as a result. Those of you who know me know that I'm a critic of big monopolies, particularly of how their safety precautions for citizens measure up. You also know that I oppose fracking in Northern Ohio, where some of the gas comes from, due to the damage it does contaminating our water table up there. So knowing all that about me, you should be pretty amazed Mr. Hebler was able to successfully address all my concerns. If anyone has any questions about the safety of the Central Corridor gas pipeline project here locally in Gulf Manor, please contact me. I'm happy to talk through my knowledge of the safety measures in place and follow up with Duke officials if there are any remaining concerns that I'm unable to address. Concerning the increase in minimum wage for Gulf Manor employees, I want to thank the administration, particularly village administrators Ron Hirth and Andy Lanzer, for figuring out how to do it, and the council for approving it. I stayed at the school at the beginning of the year and since then received lots of details on the difficulties involved in raising the minimum wage here to $15 an hour. I'm grateful we were able to find a fiscally responsible, safe way to accomplish it. And frankly, I had all but given up on it, so thank you. I'm grateful that we're able to honor and better support our employees through this measure. Volunteering for service on council committees. Last month, we had someone express interest in a vacant position for a resident on our village executive committee. The chair of that committee has had an opportunity to discuss the position with this individual, as has the village administrator. And finally, it's my turn. I left a message to schedule with him this past week. And I'm looking forward to getting to know him and potentially making an appointment of a new member to that committee. I want to take this opportunity to encourage anyone who's interested in getting more involved in the community to contact any of our council members or myself. There are lots of ways you can be involved. There are community groups and government committees, and any one of us would be happy to help you find a place to get more involved. And on that note, a proclamation to honor the community service of former council member Lou Marx.
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor.
I've had the honor to work with Lou for a number of years on council and can say that he has helped me to be a better council member and a better mayor. That's not to say I don't still have a lot of room for improvement. Lou's insight, executive people skills, warmth, and humor have been greatly appreciated, and I consider myself fortunate to be able to call him a friend. And I've seen this kind of thing before online, so I hope that no one will be offended by the way we do the masking here for my delivery of this honor to Mr. Marx. Basically, so that you can hear me read the proclamation while I stand with him, I will have my mask down while he has his mask on, and then I will put my mask on in case he wants to make any comments. So, and we're going to try to do it within the view right here. So, let me get my mask on here. There we go. All right. You don't see this? All right. There we go. All right. Honoring former council member Lou Marx. Whereas the leadership of the Gulf Manor community depends on the dedication and commitment of residents who step forward to serve the village in voluntary and public service roles. And whereas Mr. Lou Marx has resided in Gulf Manor since 1971 with his wife Mary, choosing to make Gulf Manor their home for nearly 50 years while raising their 2 children. Whereas Mr. Marx has served the residents of the village as a volunteer through a distinguished career, including coaching Gulf Manor youth soccer, co-hosting events to promote economic development, and coordinating numerous festivals and parades that enhance the livability and culture of the community. And whereas Mr. Marx served as a volunteer firefighter for nearly 15 years, achieving the rank of captain and retiring in 1990. And whereas Mr. Marx served in various roles for Village Council as a member of the Sustainability Committee, was elected to council in 2018, and served as chair of the Executive Committee. Whereas the village is appreciative to the Marx family and supporting him on his journey of public service, I now therefore, Mayor Stephen Densmore, declare Sunday, October 4th, 2020, Lou Marx Day in the village of Gulf Manor, Ohio. I ask the community to join us in thanking Mr. Marx for his many contributions to the village of Gulf Manor. And I'll get my mask on for some.
Oh, I'll take it. As soon as I get to take mine off. You did this pretty well. Yeah. Thank you very much. Thanks, man.
Good.
Thank you all.
Could I do a picture again? Sorry.
Yes, yes.
Sure.
More pictures. One more.
Okay.
Okay.
Can you see my big smile?
We can.
All right.
Thank you.
And with that, I am done with my report, and I turn it over to the village administrator for his report.
Thank you. I'm going to follow up on 2 things the mayor talked about. With Duke Energy, I have found that with the pipeline project, they have been very quick to respond on any questions that the administration has had. And they've also been very compliant with our street opening rules and procedures. So I hope that's a good foretelling of how that project is going to go here in the village. So I'm glad the mayor and those officials had a good meeting. Secondly, on people who are interested in volunteering for committees, commissions, there is a section on the website called Volunteering with the Village. There is an application there that as we have people who are interested in doing things with the village, we would like them to fill out that application as we start the process talking with them, because we also want to make sure that we have accurate information and that there are no conflicts of interest. That said, I don't have an update on Project 47 this evening. Mr. Donellan will speak a little bit more about what his discussions with the mediators are at some point tonight, but we are waiting for some additional information from the Little Miami Fire District before we can make any additional moves with the action that we're taking. On the Vera Avenue project, agreement documents have been submitted to the Ohio Public Works Commission, while surveying and engineering has begun and continues. So Ms. Cheney, Mr. Pridnoff, you should both be seeing engineers and marking it's on the street showing up everywhere. We are not going to be officially announcing the project though until the bids have actually been requested from the contractors and we've actually awarded a bid. When the bid gets awarded, then we know 100% sure that the project is moving on. So that's why we're waiting for that. But I have had contact with a couple of Vera residents and people who live on the service drive interested in what's going on, and they seem to be pretty happy that we're moving forward. We've reached an agreement with the Greater Cincinnati Water Works to work cooperatively with them to receive notification on any construction or repair projects that they are performing in the village. The administration will receive an automated email notification for any orders that are open for any work that takes place in the village. This is a huge step in us working with another agency to help us monitor and maintain the integrity of the inventory of our 18 streets. So we had an incident on Elbrook a couple of months ago. We reached out to them, asked them to please respect our process, and we worked with them cooperatively to figure out a way to do this. So I'm feeling really good about moving forward with Greater Cincinnati Waterworks at this point. The speed hump project, everything has been signed and approved. It should start sometime next week. We've not been given a specific date yet, but it will take about 30 days to complete the project once it is started. So our goal overall is to have the new speed humps in by the beginning of the holiday season at Thanksgiving. Speed monitoring signs have been ordered. We're waiting for them to come in. They will be installed on the south side of Lisanville going east in the business district, and then a second one will be installed past Fair Oaks on Bremont, headed towards Lisanville. Let's see here. COVID relief funding from the county and from the CARES Act is still being coordinated by the village with various projects that we're doing. The same list that I gave council last week is still active, and we're looking for other ways to make sure that if additional funds become available, that we're in a position to accept them and use them. The conventional wisdom right now, particularly with the initial COVID funding, is that once communities have identified that they've used that money in full, additional funding will be provided to the communities. So we'll see how that works out. I believe Ms. Gideon has sent to each of the council members contact update information. We would need to get those back as soon as possible. I know the mayor sent his. If you could get those to us, that would be great, so we can start getting records in shape for end of year contact information for taxes and so forth. I did send an email out to everybody earlier last week that Rita sent letters to 809 taxpayers on record in the village who failed to file a 2019 tax return. This will be the first step in enforcing compliance to file and ultimately collect on any personal income taxes funds that are due the village. So this is a little bit later that they're doing this, but keeping in mind that July 15th was the filing date for village taxes as well as federal and state, that makes sense. Finally, sent out an invitation last night. We are inviting the employees, our volunteers, our elected officials, the employees of the Little Miami Fire District, and friends who work with us to what we're calling a very positive appreciation barbecue with social distancing. So that will be on Friday, October 9th, starting at 12 noon. Mr. Donnellan will be our grill master that day. We appreciate that. And we will have socially distanced catering by Vonderhaars for everything else. So just bring a good spirit, a great appetite, and hopefully there'll be a chance for us to have some downtime and enjoy each other before we start moving into the busy end of year and holiday season. With that said, that is the end of my report.
Thank you, Mr. Hirth. Any questions from council?
I do have a comment. It's actually pit master and not grill master.
Ah,
So
That's
But
hard to
thank-
follow, but I do have a question.
I did not know that distinction.
yes.
Just out of curiosity, Rod, you said there was whatever 809 people that didn't file taxes last year. Do you know what it was the year before? Since this is our second year of the read, I'm just curious to see if there's been any movement in that.
I do not. Ms. Gideon would be able to provide that for us.
Right, yeah, I would be interested in that too. Mr. Van Harn, I'll follow up with the administration and see if that was tracked at all in the first year.
Thank you, Member Itzler.
Yeah, I'm sure we have it. I'll send an email to Anna and ask her to provide it.
Thank you, Mr. Hurth, for your report. If there's no other questions, I will turn it over to our fiscal officer, Mr. Lanzer, for his report.
Okay. There are, I just have a few items here. Brian Timmers, our newest employee, part-time employee with the service department, has started, and he's worked a couple shifts. So a little background on Brian. He is one of our career firefighters with the Little Miami Fire District, and he's going to help us out in the service department. He comes to us with a lot of skills and know-how, and I think he really elevates the department quite a bit. So we're really thankful to have him on board. We are moving forward in the process of hiring an additional part-time employee in the service department. So if you know of anybody, please pass along I believe we made the flyer available. Please pass that job announcement out and direct them our way. We'd love to have another person on board, especially for leaves. The next item I have is the census. So there's some confusion, I think, among the federal government, inside the federal government, as when the actual deadline for the census is. I received an email from the census last week stating that the September deadline has been extended to Halloween, October 31st. And then I heard, I believe, Chairman Powell say today that no, it's October 5th. So either way, there appears to be an extension for the census. So if anyone's watching this evening who hasn't filled out the census, please take the time to fill it out. It's really quick and easy. If you have any neighbors who have not filled out the census, please remind them that the census is important, and we want to make sure every resident of the village counts. As for total response rate, we currently stand as of today at 67.9%. Compared to 2010, we are about almost 3 percentage points higher than we were in 2010. So given all the COVID restrictions and the kind of the change of plans, I think any improvement, especially a 3% improvement, is something to be proud of. And I know some time and energy has gone into getting the word out, and we're very appreciative of it. The final item I have tonight is we are going to do another reappropriations. If you recall, the last couple of meetings, we've made adjustments to the 2151 fund. That's our fund that we created to account for state revenue additional state revenue that we were given. We are going to be moving $10,000 from the personal line item 2151110, and we're going to be moving that into the 420 line item. We're doing that because there's several projects that we would like and items we would like to complete and purchase, and it looks as if we over appropriated, as of right now, the personal salary line items. That's my report. If anyone has any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you, Mr. Lanzer. Are there any questions?
I have one question, Andy. What's the drop dead date to take down our census sign from our yard?
Well, the census committee, the steering committee with the county and the city have not informed us of that. So I can look into it and get an answer and get back to you. But as of today, I am not sure. And I think part of the reason is because the census isn't sure when the deadline actually is.
Okay, I just didn't want to get in trouble with the administration, so thank you.
I don't think you will. I don't think you will.
I got your back.
Yeah.
All right, any other questions? All All right, I will turn it over to our police chief, Chief Campbell, for his report.
You'll like this report. It's very short. I just want to reiterate my congratulations to Sergeant Reed. He's a terrific member of our team, and he's a good example to the rest of our PD. And that is the end of my report.
Thank you, Chief Campbell. And we will take time here to do a second roll call for quorum, just to make sure we're required to do this for those who are wondering, given that we're not meeting in person, to make sure that we still have enough people here to legally have this council meeting. So if you would, Mr. Lanzer.
Excuse me,
do a
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make one comment for Mr. Campbell, but I can wait if you'd like.
Go ahead. Yes, please.
I was really impressed to see one of the officers comment on the Go Golf Manor Facebook page regarding an incident. I think it's really, there was some good response from that, that they're actually kind of engaging, and it was just a really good thing to see. And I wanted to raise that up as a really positive thing for the community, because that's what we are. So thank you.
Thank you. I'll pass that on. Which officer was it?
It was Officer Forrest.
Okay. Yep. I'll pass that on to him. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Lanzer, if you would do a call for quorum.
Sure. Mr. Batcher,
Present.
Ms. Cheney,
Present.
Mr. Knipp,
Present.
Mr. Pridnoff,
Yes.
Ms. Snyder,
Here.
Mr. Van Horn,
Present.
all members present.
Thank you, Mr. Lanzer. All right, we'll turn it over to our solicitor, Mr. Terry Donnellan, for his report and legislation and discussion.
Thank you. We have 4 pieces of legislation tonight, which we shared with you in the memo at the end of last week. The first is resolution number 2020-13. I'd ask for a motion to read that by title only.
Motion to read by title only.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And without objection, I'll take that as unanimous.
And this resolution is entitled a resolution accepting the amounts and rates as determined by the Hamilton County Budget Commission and authorizing the necessary tax levies and certifying them to the county auditor. I need a motion and a second for approval, then I'll explain it and we'll do a roll call vote.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Second.
This is something every community must do each year this time of year. In July, we submit our budget, which is our anticipated revenues and expenditures for the coming year. The Budget Commission then reviews those. They use that in the old days for the determination of local government funds. There's still a trickle for local government funds, but they go through that process and then acknowledge that we have a balanced budget. They then send to us this resolution, which really ratifies our current tax levies. It does not increase any taxes. It does not create new taxes. It ratifies what we have on the books and records today. We pass this and then authorizes the county auditor to then bill that through the treasurer for the calendar year 2021.
Thank
Any
you.
questions?
All right, then we need a roll call vote.
Mr. Batcher,
Yes.
Ms. Cheney,
Yes.
Mr. Knipp,
Yes.
Mr. Pridnoff,
Yes.
Ms. Snyder,
Yes.
Mr. Van Horn,
Yes.
all members voted in favor.
Thank you. The next piece is a resolution number 2020-14. I have a motion to read that by title only.
So motion.
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
And without objection, I'll take that as unanimous.
And this is a resolution declaring the official intent and reasonable expectation of the Village of Gulf Manor on behalf of the state of Ohio, the borrower, to reimburse its capital improvement fund for the Vera, Elbrook, and Vera Service Drive improvements, project number CB29X, with the proceeds of tax-exempt debt of the state of Ohio. We have a motion, a second, and I'll explain what this is.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Mr. Hurth mentioned earlier that we have been awarded funding for the Veer Avenue project, broadly speaking, for this coming calendar year. This resolution authorizes our specific agreement with the Ohio Public Works Commission and the state of Ohio. The nature of the agreement is that they will fund, by way of a grant, 50% of the total anticipated cost of $847,880, and they will offer us a zero-interest loan for the remaining 50% of the project funds. This is the first step in that process to approve the agreement, authorizing Mr. Hurth to sign it on behalf of the village. Mr. Lanzer then gives certain certifications to the state of Ohio. Then they put us in the budget for funding of that project next year. Next step will be awarding the actual contract for construction, which probably Mr. Hurth, Mr. Lanzer will be first of the year. So
Correct.
Yes.
any questions?
All right, then we need a roll call vote.
Mr. Betcher,
Yes.
Ms. Cheney,
Yes.
Mr. Knipp,
Yes.
Mr. Pridnoff,
Yes.
Ms. Snyder,
Yes.
Mr. Van Horn.
Yes.
All members voted in favor.
Thank you. The third piece is resolution number 2020-15. May I have a motion to read that by title only?
Motion.
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Without objection, I'll take that as unanimous.
This is a resolution amending resolution number 2020-11, authorizing a lease purchase of a police vehicle. We need a motion and a second.
So motion.
Second.
If you recall at our last meeting, we approved a resolution authorizing the purchase of a new police vehicle through an agency, John Jones Auto Group in Indiana, and financing of that purchase through US Bank Corp. After the paperwork was finalized on the financing, they realized that the semi-annual monthly amount was actually $10,964.13 and not $10,442.53. So US Bank has asked us to update that by passing this amended resolution so that they can go forward and pay the funds to the John Jones Auto Group.
Just a point of order. I noticed on the agenda that we had, you had ordinance 2020-10, and now we're doing resolution 2020-15. Did we skip something, or is the same thing? It's redundant?
No, what we do is resolution numbers have their own sequence, and then ordinances have their next sequence because they're two different styles of legislation. So this is our 15th resolution of the year, and the next time will be our 10th ordinance of the year.
Okay, I'm just pointing out that it was put in a different order in the minutes. That's
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
excuse me, in the agenda, not the minutes.
Okay.
Okay,
Because we did an add-on at the last minute. In the parlance of Keeneland and River Downs, it was an added starter. But there were no jockey changes.
And I need to recuse myself as an employee of US Bank Corp and a shareholder. I'm recusing myself from any votes regarding the financing.
thank you, Mr. Betcher. Is there any other questions?
I have one sideline question, but I think it has to wait for after the vote. So thank you.
All right, so Mr. Lanzer, roll call vote.
Ms. Cheney,
Yes.
Mr. Knipp,
Yes.
Mr. Pridnoff,
Yes.
Ms. Snyder,
Yes.
Mr. Van Horn.
Yes.
All members voted in favor.
All right. Is that the end of your report, Mr. Donnellan?
I have just a couple more items. The fourth piece of legislation is ordinance number 2020-10, and I need a motion to read that by title only.
So motion.
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
This is an ordinance to amend
Without
appropriation.
objection, I'll take that as unanimous. Sorry, Mr. Donnellan, I was waiting for more hands to come up.
Sorry, I jumped the gun. An ordinance to amend appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures of the Village of Gulf Manor for the fiscal year ending December 31, 2020, to appropriate funds to be received for coronavirus relief. I believe Mr. Lanzer mentioned this during his report that we were just updating our appropriations. So we need a motion and a second and then a roll call vote.
I'll make-
Motion.
Second.
Second.
If there are no questions, then I'll ask Mr. Lanzer for the roll call vote.
Mr. Betcher,
Yes.
Ms. Cheney,
Yes.
Mr. Knipp,
Yes.
Mr. Pridnoff,
Yes.
Ms. Snyder,
Yes.
Mr. Van Horn.
Yes.
And now I need a motion to suspend the second and third readings of that ordinance so it can take effect immediately, and then a roll call vote.
So moved.
Second.
Are there any questions? Mr. Lanzer, roll call, please.
Mr. Betcher,
Yes.
Ms. Cheney,
Yes.
Mr. Knipp,
Yes.
Mr. Pridnoff,
Yes.
Ms. Snyder,
Yes.
Mr. Van Horn.
Yes. Sorry.
All members voted in favor.
And two quick final points. Mr. Hirth mentioned the update on the Little Miami Fire District. As part of the process, when in the future we would vote to withdraw, there would be an allocation of assets among the membership. And so we have asked the board to begin the process of giving us an updated inventory as to what those assets would be. So we can also go about agreeing to what a value may be. So if we then take that step, we know what kind of financial package we may be receiving or assets we may be receiving to develop any other partnerships for service in the village. Our hope is to have that resolve, the agreed inventory and maybe even evaluation over the next 30 days. Any questions on that? The last point is we know we're coming to the end of the governor's emergency declaration with COVID. There's even been some push by the legislature to end that declaration early. We've learned a lot through this process, and if you remember way back when, we passed legislation creating certain emergency powers with the mayor and the village administrator. And the thought is, while we're all hoping that COVID will be in the rearview mirror quite soon, and that we may not experience COVID 2021 or any other number like that, it's not a bad idea, and a number of communities are considering it, and that is memorializing legislation for the process we went through with the mayor, so that we do have emergencies like a pipeline emergency, a natural weather emergency, or anything else like that. So we have a process in place for the mayor to have certain powers that he can also delegate to the village administrator. And then kind of to balance that, because we've seen the pushback that came from Columbus, is allowing those powers to remain in place for a period of time and then reaffirmed by council. This is no different than what we really have with curfews. Where there's a situation where there's an emergency need for a curfew, the mayor can declare a curfew, but to extend the curfew for a longer period of time, the legislature or the council has to vote in on that. So I bring it to your attention because we're already October. Again, the current COVID emergency expires December 31. We don't know if it'll be extended, but I'm thinking it might not be a bad idea to start ourselves through that process with a draft piece of legislation for the mayor to look at and the executive committee to look at and come back with a recommendation to council. Any thoughts on that or comments?
Sorry, again, what would this practically mean for us?
Well, what it does is we did the emergency legislation in April, I think it was. And rather than having to do something specific to that time, is have something on the books, like a curfew, that it's there for when the village administrator, fire chief, police chief says, Mayor, we need this emergency, so we can quickly make a declaration. We can quickly put some controls in place, but that so no one objects, those controls remain in place for a limited period of time unless extended or agreed to be extended by council. You'd likely would do it for a 2-week period. So we have the immediate protection, the immediate authority, the mayor can act, but long-term council gets to weigh in and we don't have this pushback dynamic like we saw in Columbus, where they're trying to undo what the mayor is doing or the governor's doing. Again, many communities are saying, let's put this in place now. Hopefully we never use it again, but if it comes up, we have it. we have it and we can act on it.
Question, you mentioned that the time frame, say 2 weeks, would that time frame be adjusted based on the emergency? Could we put that in the legislation saying, hey, if it's a riot situation, we have 48 hours to do a curfew. If it's a COVID situation, then maybe we have a month, that kind of thing. Something that's maybe a tiered structure based on the emergency.
We could look at that. I mean, again, we're starting the discussion now, so we start with a model and talk about how we want to tweak it. We want that ability 2 o'clock in the morning to make the declaration, and then we want that follow-up. The thought on 2 weeks is that's typically the rotation of when council would meet. So we don't have council having to call themselves into emergency session, but maybe we do need the flexibility for things like COVID, pandemics, and for a longer period of time, unlike again, if there's a pipeline explosion, the mayor may have to declare immediate curfew and immediate controls to be able to maintain order, but maybe that's not necessary to go into place for 60 days. It's more a matter of a week or 2 weeks. So we can put something in place, and maybe what we do is we allow it for a 2-week period with council having the authorization if they want to call themselves an emergency session to shorten it. But if there's let's get started with a model that we can discuss.
Yeah, I'm generally in support of this, but you might consider making it 2.5 to 3 weeks as that range, because some of the council meetings do spread out a little bit. And also, if it happened on a Monday night when our meeting is, it would really put a lot of pressure on the last. So maybe make it 3 weeks or a little longer than 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Would make sense in certain situations.
Yeah, that's all I'm saying is, maybe we categorize the emergency from, pipe explosion to civil unrest to COVID. That way we're not overreaching.
Yeah, let's put something together, reviewing it with fire chief, police chief, Mr. Hurth, Mr. Lanzer, the mayor, and then bring maybe to executive committee. I don't know that we'd have something for executive committee in 2 weeks, but perhaps we target this for our first meeting in November, so we could have this in place as we get into 2021. And again, this is something a number of communities are doing, recognizing that this caught us all off guard and we're scrambling for how we build the controls in place and the support in place and what's needed to be done.
Sounds good.
All right, thank you, Mr. Donald. At the end of your report.
That's all the pitmaster has for you this evening.
All right. Executive committee, Ms. Snyder, do you have a report?
My sideline question in the middle of the solicitor's thing was, I've noticed on some of the minutes that during roll call, my name does not say yes or no in a lot of the minutes that have been published. So I think there's some copy and pasting going on. And I'm pretty sure I've been present at all the meetings since I started. I don't think I've missed any. So I don't know how you go back and change that appropriately, or I just want to make that known that some of them, like this one here I have in front of me, my name does not say yes during the quorum roll call on the minutes.
We'll go back and take care of it.
Okay, I just want to make sure it's appropriate. Say it publicly, and then if there's anything weird you have to do to make sure it's done properly, I want to. I don't want anybody to come back and say I was never there. So thank you.
If we just have a
Mr. Van
motion,
Hart, that I'm clear, are you talking about the agenda that has, like, that we use as the template for the minutes? Are you talking about today's agenda? Or are you talking about the minutes that we prior approved earlier in the council meeting today?
Well, as I look at the agenda, I've noticed it, but I will have to connect it to the minutes. But every time they're obviously copying and pasting the yeses in the roll call votes, but mine is not included. So I don't know if they're doing that from the.
We will go back through and look at the agendas and the minutes and correct what needs to be corrected.
what we can do is at the next meeting, if Mr. Lanzer is able to identify some of those, is just make a broad motion to amend those minutes as appropriate to include your vote. Again, I think tonight we have the agenda and it's brought over from minutes, and it does have a blank next to your name, but when I look back at the September 14th minutes, your vote is actually recorded with each piece of legislation. So it is some housekeeping that maybe if we find those, we can correct it with a broad approval next meeting. And to that note, I sent out an email to everybody about correcting the minutes for the special referendum council meeting we had in July. Mr. Van Harn had raised a question. He and I talked today, and he was in agreement that the change that I had proposed was correct, that the minutes should reflect that we amended the resolution first by that motion, then passed it as amended. The correction being that when we read the legislation, we needed to go back and correct what was the summary for the ballot that's been approved by the Board of Elections. So he and I walked through it. He was in agreement. So I think Mr. Landers made the corrections, and we'll pick those up for that next tranche of approval at our next meeting.
Yeah, thank you. I didn't have a chance to go through every one, but I've noticed it a few times, and I thought I'd bring it up now. So thank you.
Ms. Snyder, did I hear you correctly? No report for executive?
Correct. No report. We did not meet tonight.
Ms. Cheney, is there an education report?
The only thing is CPS students will be back in the classroom on October the 6th.
Thank you, Ms. Cheney. Mr. Pridnoff, is there a nonprofit report?
There is. I actually have a couple of items here. First, the Go Golf Manor organization is planning a safe Halloween trick-or-treat event on Saturday, October 31st. They'll be reviewing guidelines provided by both Village and the best practices recommended by Ohio Department of Health, who were published recently. They're doing an outdoor event, much like last year. It'll be taking place on Ardmore. Some of the details are people will be required to wear masks. Family groups will be required to maintain a minimum of 6 feet apart from each other. Each side of the street will be one way, while safe crossing will be allowed to change direction. Candy will be distributed in distanced fashion, such as setting out on a table in singular or replenished as picked up, so there won't be big bowls. Another idea people have toyed with is the idea of candy chutes, which will be PVC tubing to just drop candy into the bags. More details can be found at the Go Golf Manor Facebook page. Events and details are forthcoming, will be announced soon. If any residents need assistance in getting, that's number one was Halloween. Number two is in terms of election day. If any residents need assistance in getting to the polls on election day, there are volunteers offering to drive people to the polls in Golf Manor. Information about rides to the polls will also be available soon on Go Golf Manor's Facebook page. Mostly Go Golf Manor. It's a lot of good stuff happening in Golf Manor. Go Golf Manor is planning an outdoor event for mid-November. It's going to be a chili cook-off competition. A Golf Manor neighbor who's experienced in organizing these types of events will be announcing the details soon. Each chili will be entered and judged. A favorite entry award will go to the People's Choice Chili of Golf Manor. Looking forward to hearing the results of that. Also, last year, Mr. Van Harn's daughter, actually, as most of us probably remember, received an honorary of the Haven Van Harn Day after her cookie sale that raised for the repairs at Volunteer Park. If anyone remembers, the sink was vandalized, the bathroom was vandalized, and the sink was broken. A significant amount of money in repairs for that. So Ms. Van Harn, at 11 years old, wanted to continue to encourage the day as one of community and respecting others, property, fun, volunteering, and helping others, among many other very positive traits. She's offering cookies for sale again this year, and all proceeds will benefit Station 47 in Golf Manor for the fire department. If you'd like to support this effort, you can find the link to order cookies in both Go Golf Manor and Pleasant Ridge Facebook groups through tomorrow. Ms. Van Harn extended taking orders one day since the council meeting is tonight. That is the end of my report.
Thank you, Mr. Pridnoff, and thank you, Ms. Van Harn. Well done.
Thank you.
Mr. Pridnoff, I don't recall that this was publicly said before, but I wanted to wanted to make sure that it did not go without saying. Wanted to congratulate you on the addition to your family that occurred. I believe that was last month, and
Beginning of this month, September 3rd.
beginning of
There you
this
go.
month. So congratulations and much blessings on your household.
Thank you very much.
Let's see, do we have a fire I believe we do, a fire district board member report. Mr. Van Harn or Mr. Lanzer?
Yeah, Roger, you can jump in. I have a few things. The fire district added a new full-time firefighter, Eric Rolls. Mr. Rolls, I believe, has been a long-time part-time firefighter, primarily out of Station 47. And he's been brought on full-time with the fire district, and he'll continue to work full-time out at Station 47. And, like the rest of our full-time staff with the fire department, my understanding is he's an outstanding hire, and again, a real asset to the fire district and the fire department at Station 47. Staffing does continue to be a challenge. We're seeing numerous staff departures, full-time and part-time. So just something to keep an eye on. One thing that the board discussed was recently that the district is seeing increased vehicle maintenance expenses. I'm not sure how many of you are aware, the vehicle fleet for the fire district is old by fire department standards. And they believe that there's a link between the age of the equipment and some of the increased vehicle expenses that they're seeing. The fire district is also looking at extending the union agreement for full-time staff for 1 year. Details are being worked out as we speak. I'm happy to share that development once it's finalized. And then last, Elmwood Place continues to be a challenge for the fire district. The fire district simply going on a lot of mutual aid runs into Elmwood Place. The problem with that is the mutual aid isn't mutual. We have discussed this at the last board meeting, and Chief Timmers and Mayor Carson Shelton and myself are working on a solution to this. I think it's really important, given the financial condition of the district, that we're being responsible to the taxpayers of Gulf Manor and Columbia Township. End of report. I'm happy to answer any questions anyone might have.
Are there any questions? Thank you, Mr. Lanzer. Are there any questions? All right, I will ask Mr. Betcher, is there a planning commission report?
No planning commission report, and there's no business for the October meeting, so it has been now, our next meeting will be in November.
All right, thank you, Mr. Betcher. Mr. Knepp, is there a community engagement report?
No report.
All right. Finance Committee, Mr. Betcher, is there a report?
No report.
Financial Audit Committee, Mr. Betcher, is there a report?
Financial Audit Committee did meet this evening. One of the things that was agreed upon was to put an RFP for pricing out, or an RFP out for our banking services. So that will flow into the Finance Committee in the coming months. Next scheduled meeting for the Audit Committee will be in February.
What's an RFP?
Request for pricing. So currently banking with Fifth Third, and we've seen an uptick in the bank fees, service charge fees. So putting out a public request to get quotes for banking services.
All right, thank you, Mr. Betcher.
You're welcome.
Any more questions? Right. Without objection, I will jump to a couple announcements unless there's any other discussion. Our next council meeting is scheduled for October 12th, 2020. Remaining council and committee dates are for this, for 2020, are Monday, October 26th, 7 p.m., Monday, November 9th, 7 p.m., Monday, November 23rd, 7 p.m. That's appropriations for 2021. And the meeting for Monday, December 14th at 7 p.m. Is on the books, but if there's no pending business at that time, we'll go ahead and cancel that meeting. And I have on my notes here that we may have a need for an executive session. Is that correct, Mr. Donilon?
Not this evening that I'm aware of that we need one.
Okay, it's a misprint on our agenda.
It actually was not a misprint, it was a placeholder in case we needed.
Okay. Very, very good. So any comments on that agenda? And if not, if you become aware of a schedule conflict as we approach any of those dates, let us know and we'll, get with everyone and see if we can change things around. But that looks like it's as it is. Did we have any, I'm presuming we didn't have anybody in the chat section, Mr. Lanzer. Could you check that and let me know?
No one in the chat this evening.
All right, very good. So unless there's an objection and a request for more discussion, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Without objection, I'll take that as unanimous. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Darren, what's so funny?
Playing with the finger, the graphic.